Yep.
Right, start.
I'm ready.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to start today our meeting of the Lynn Zoning Board of Appeals, Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, 7 p.m. If we can have a roll call, please.
Yes, Member Maggio?
Here.
Member Olson?
Present.
Member Crowitz? Not present. Member Christopher? Not here. Member Lopez Hernandez?
Present.
Member Gilrain?
Present.
Member Marcia? Absent. Member Paez?
Present.
Perfect.
All right, before we get into tonight's business, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the March 18th meeting, our last meeting.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. All of those in favor say aye. Aye.
Who seconded?
I did.
Not you. Okay.
So
Thank you.
we can get with today's cases that we have. We'll start with case number 10103, 63 Goodrich Street. We can have the reading.
Sure. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hear all parties of interest on the following petitions on Tuesday, April 15th at 302 Lynn City Hall. Locus 63 Goodrich Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 085-489-019. Petitioner Benny Boulon, 10 Fall Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, 01902. By his attorney Samuel A. Natale, CBA 10103. To permit, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Lynn Zone Ordinance, Section 7.4, a change in the use of a pre-existing non-conforming building from a commercial warehouse to professional detailing technician, finding such change of use is not substantially more detrimental than current use to the neighborhood on a 3,779 square foot lot, 50 feet of frontage in the R1 district. Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6 states pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended or altered, provided that no such extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there is a finding by the permit granting authority that such change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. If we can hear from the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Attorney Sam Vitale. This is Benny Gray. He is the professional detail technician. This property has been used for many commercial uses since it was built in 1920. I think I may have provided the 1926 directory that said it was the Meadow Park Garage. It was an auto repair garage. But over the course of its use, it's been used by the city of Lynn for the DPW. It's been used by people who were in the business of renting chairs and tables. I remember if you've been around long enough, you saw the Appleton sign and he had the chairs on the side, pictures on the side of his truck. And it's been used lately as a commercial warehouse, as the notice said. Those uses in a residential district are non-conforming. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, number one. Number two, the building envelops almost the entire lot. So it doesn't meet the dimensional regulations for a residential use. For a business use, it does satisfy it, because for business use, you only need 50 feet of frontage and you can build right to the property line. But it's been used over those years, and what we're here to do is to ask you, as the notice said, to make a determination that what these people propose to do, which I'll describe in a minute, is not substantially more detrimental in its effect on the neighborhood than those prior uses have been and are. And so they do auto detailing, about which I know very little, but I can tell you that there are two things that I think make this not detrimental at all, but an improvement. And one is they only see people by appointment, and secondly, everything they do is inside the building. So that in terms of the impact on the neighborhood, it should have little or none. Now, if you keep it as a commercial warehouse, and I don't know what businesses have been going back and forth out of there, but I would suggest to you that it probably had more impact on the neighborhood with its previous uses than this proposed use would be. For the simple reason, as I said, that they only see people by appointment, and everything they're going to do is inside the building. And that since 1920, this building has been used either for auto repair, a garage for the DPW, storage for the chairs and tables rental, or a mover. And I think all of those uses probably had a greater impact on the neighborhood than this proposed use. And I would hope that you would look favorably upon it. These guys are businessmen. They work at not far from this location right now at the other end of Meadow Park. And this is an opportunity for them to expand their business. Some of his employees are here, and I think that this would go a long way in encouraging a good use of the property that would have little or no effect on the neighborhood. I'd be glad to answer anybody's questions.
Thanks. I'll open it to the board for any questions.
I guess considering the chemicals that are required for the detailing, how do you plan on managing the disposal and taking care of it so that it's safe for both you all inside, but also the community?
So that garage already has a drain inside, and it has the oil and liquid separators.
Well, yeah, separate.
Everything. So we don't have to worry about it. And the vents inside they're already everything's ready to go.
You said this is an expansion of the footprint of an existing detailing business?
Yes.
What are your hours of operation?
Right now we're 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Is everything done inside or is there some exterior components?
Of the building?
Yeah, like will you be detailing cars outside or
No,
all
everything's
interior?
inside.
So the vehicles, they pull into the building with their appointment.
Yes.
I assume you're going to be working on a vehicle, the next one's coming in, and you're waiting for somebody to pick one up. How many vehicles are inside the building at any one time?
Well, the building is big enough to store about 15 cars,
Okay,
so we wouldn't be working on all of them at the same time.
right.
It'd be maybe 2 or 3.
So there'll be no staging on the street, everything's
No, not everything
inside?
would be inside.
Okay. Thank you.
How many clients do you expect that would come on a day-to-day basis?
Day to day, I'd say maybe 4 or 5. Depends.
Less than 10?
Yeah.
In terms of inside, is there any type of, it's pretty close to the surrounding community, does the building have any type of paneling or any materials that addresses potential noise from machinery and working on the cars inside?
No, the whole building is brick, so
Okay.
it's pretty well isolated.
Okay. And the machinery,
No, the loudest thing that would be there is the compressor.
Okay.
And that's not loud.
any other questions from board?
Thank you.
Thank you. Opening up to the public, if there is anybody here that would like to speak in favor of the petition, anybody here in favor? If there's anybody here in attendance to speak against the petition? All right, nobody against. What is the wish of the board?
I make a motion to grant with the stipulation that vehicles are not staged out in the public street before and after detailing.
I'll second that.
Do we have a second from member Maggio?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you give me that stipulation again, Victor?
Yes, no vehicles are stored in the public street for staging before and after detailing.
Are we gonna put the hours of operation on here or?
So that's a question which I don't know if we have. Has the board and other use variances determined the time that a business may operate?
Variances, none come to mind.
Yeah.
It will probably, need to be permits from Lynn City Council, and maybe more appropriate at that level for illegal permits to operate the business.
So they can still add that type of stipulation.
Absolutely, that's very common on the permit itself.
I would suggest to the board to not move on hours of operation if that's okay. And if it is a concern from ward councilors who might be more attuned, they can do so. Can we have a roll?
Okay. Member Gilrain,
Yes, to approve.
with the stipulation no vehicle stored on the public street.
Yes.
Okay. Member Payas,
I guess I have a question for you all. Is there anything that we can add to ensure the like health and safety of the building? I'm just worried about like runoff and stuff, considering it's right next to the school and restaurant.
As part of the fiduciary, we should add that there will be no runoff from any fluids or cleanings from the business. It does sound like they have a drainage system that is hopefully equipped to deal with this, but that could be it.
Yeah, there's no storage of materials outside that would be exposed to runoff.
Are we suggesting a change into the motion or was it just
Yeah, it
a
was
clarifying?
I think she was just suggesting an amended
Okay.
motion. Do we need to vote on the amendment first?
Um,
Or just vote the amendment?
I believe that we can vote on the amendment proposed by Member Payas. Can we have a roll call on the amendment?
Second that.
Yeah, it's seconded by Mr. Olson on having another stipulation to not have
no
fluid-
storage
no
material
storage
stored outside.
Yeah, I think that's in line with how they operate their business anyway, so.
All right. So we'll be voting on the amendment.
So both stipulations. Right.
So no vehicle stored on public streets
Right,
and no storage of material stored outside.
yeah.
So are we still using the same Olson and Maggio as the people that?
I believe
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go Member Gilrain,
Yes, with stipulations.
Member Payas,
Yes, with stipulations.
Member Maggio,
Yes, with the stipulations.
Member Olson,
Yes, with stipulations.
Member Lopez Hernandez.
Yes, with stipulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You.
So. Right, that was pretty quick. Have a good night. We have our second case that we'll be reading tonight, case number 10104, 74 Rogers Avenue.
74 Rogers Avenue, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 069656013, petitioner John Duran, JD Consulting and Design Inc., 59 Howard Street, number 1, Revere, Massachusetts, 02151, by his agent, Representative Jarman Schuman, 55 North Marshall Street, Revere, Massachusetts, ZBA 10104. To vary pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 10, the provisions of the City of Lynn ordinance to allow the addition of a basement unit in a three-family dwelling in the R4 residential district, where the first floor of the unit would be more than 4 feet above the mean level of the street or way on which the building abuts or is to be numbered in space below such floor shall be used for human occupancy. Section 8.3.6 of the zone ordinance. The variance request requires the zoning board of appeals to specifically find that owing to circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape or topography of such land or structures, and specifically affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance.
All right, thank you. If we can have opening statements from the petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Attorney Lisa McGloin. I'm here with the petitioner. I've been retained recently to discuss the matter with the board and meet with all of you. Ms. Martinez and her husband presently own the property. The property is an existing three-family home. Her cousin lives on the first floor currently, is married with 2 children, and they're looking to extend the first floor unit living space, which is above ground on what we would sometimes call a second floor, and put a first floor on, which is partially in the basement and partially above ground. The majority of the unit would be above ground. It would be expanding to add 2 bedrooms to the basement for their expanding family, or their family members. Right now, there's 3 bedrooms. The existing building is a 3-family. Each floor currently has 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. And this would be making the first floor essentially a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit for the family. I'm happy to address any of the questions that the board has. I would say that this project is in line with what is existing in the neighborhood. There are existing 3 families. Many and most of the abutters have 3 families. She has tried to reach out to some of the neighbors. She was able to get one of the neighbors to sign a petition in support of the project. The other neighbors, many of which, if I could present that to the board. Thank you. Several of the other neighbors are not owner occupants, and she's tried to reach several of them, but has not had much luck. And as we said, the project is 60 to 70% above the ground, the units that they would be adding.
Right. Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
So it's staying a 3-family. You're not trying to go for a 4th unit, it's just 3 adding additional bedrooms?
Correct.
No changes to the building footprint?
Is it stacked stone foundation all the way down?
Yes.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
All right, thank you. Opening it up to the public or anybody who would like to speak in favor of the petitioner. Anybody here to speak in favor of this case? Opening it up to anybody to speak against this petition. Anybody here to speak against? What is the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion to grant.
All right, I'll second that. Motion made by member Maggio.
Any stipulations?
Any stipulations from reminders?
No.
Okay. So, member Payaz, you're on this case? Okay. Member Payaz to grant?
Motion to grant.
Member Christopher to grant?
Yes.
Member Maggio to grant?
Yes to grant.
Member Olson to grant?
Yes, to grant.
Member Lopez Hernandez?
Yes to grant.
Okay.
All right. All right. We have our following case, case number 10105, 321 Essex Street.
321 Essex Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 083709302. Petitioner Tina Siphon, 321 Essex Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, 01902, by her attorney Samuel A. Vitale, ZBA 10105. to permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6, the construction of a two-unit
Did you
apartment
see this one?
and retail space on a lot having 9,677 square feet with off-street parking, having less than the required parking setbacks in the business district. The petition would seek to reestablish the decision in case number 9967, granting a residential unit on the first floor of a pre-existing non-conforming mixed-use structure, finding that such a change is not substantially more detrimental in effect to the neighborhood. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6 states pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended or altered, provided that no such extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there is a finding by the permit granting authority that such change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Attorney Vitale. This is Tina. Judy is here to help us with just she's not a native English speaker. Okay. We were here before, as that suggests. And at that time, when I appeared then, there was a similar request for relief because this is a mixed-use building. And there were commercial units on the first floor, and there were residential units, of which there were two on the second floor, one of which Tina was in. And at that time, her son was in the military. He was trying to get a VA loan, and in order to do that, we had to generate revenue. And so we came to this very same spot, the use of what was then an office or another commercial space that was empty, adjoining the nail salon. And the board approved that, and I brought the plan that I think Jim Starrett had done at that time, and there are not substantial changes in that with respect to the first floor unit, and it was approved. I subsequently recorded the approval because the state statute says in order for a variance, a finding to be effective, it's going to be recorded. I recorded it. That's usually when I sort of step out because the next step is to exercise it. There are many ways to exercise it, but the most prevalent one is to go get a permit, either for alterations or building. There are other ways to exercise it. And I've been here before you all, and there are people who, because they couldn't get the financing, or they couldn't get materials, or some reason that they couldn't time that, I come in and I ask for another 6 months, which you have the right to grant. And the governor recently allowed permits that were issued between, I think, January 1st of 2023 and January 1st of 2025, to have 2 more years to get done. Unfortunately, that doesn't apply because this one was done before that. So why are we here? We're here because these folks went to get, Tina went to get a use and occupancy permit. You have to get smoke detectors, and the work had been done, and she found that the work had been done without permits. And that's because whoever her son had hired never filed for a permit. So now there's a new contractor who's filing for the permit, but he can't get the permit unless we revive this decision. And so these are people, certainly not Tina, who wanted to do it in accordance with what was required. And unbeknownst to her, the work was done. She's now in that unit, but she can't get an occupancy permit because they say that you need to get this revived, and that's why we're here. So you have the authority, I believe, to do that, and the relief we're seeking here today is the same relief we sought earlier, which was to make a finding that it wasn't substantially more detrimental. So this gives me a chance to show my Jesuit training and talk about non-conformity uses. So you can extend a non-conforming use if you're doing substantially the same thing in substantially the same manner. So obviously, there are two residential units, and this is the third residential unit. So it's clearly within the essential residential category. And so to me, it's a difference of degree of volume, because three's more than two. And so we make that finding. The question is the addition of that residential unit substantially more detrimental? So I would suggest that the answer is no, because a board previous to you had already allowed this mixed use. A board previous to you had already granted a variance with respect to the parking buffer. Mr. Reed's plan, which he updated, shows we got sufficient parking for the mixed uses. Even with with three residential units, you need 5 spaces, you got 19. All right? But they're laid out because of the crazy shape of the lot, the configuration of the lot, so that some of them, not all of them, but some of them don't meet the design standard, which is you can't park within 5 feet of the street or 5 feet of the property. So I would suggest to you that, A, because the previous board had unanimously approved it, at that time there was no one in opposition. I don't know about today. There was no one in opposition at that time. And then, rather than have an empty office, what they did is they converted it as Tina believed they had the right to do. And this would have come to no one's attention if she was trying to hide something. But she went down and said, okay, I want to get, what's my occupancy permit? They got to put in smoke, and they said, well, wait a minute. So I don't know if I submitted it. Mr. Duncan wrote a letter in March of 2023 that said, essentially, the next step is go get a building permit. That's what they want to do. They have a contractor, it's a licensed contractor. We submitted an updated plan to show you what the layout is, which is not inconsistent with what the plan that we had done by Jim Stanley back when we first started this project, which was in 2021. So I would suggest that the board has the authority. One of the reasons I wanted to reestablish it is that in terms of the findings at that point in time, it would be essentially the same. Nothing has really changed. So we haven't, from the approval, we haven't increased the non-conformity. We just kept the non-conformity, which is the residential use of the business district, the same as what was previously approved. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? So this is essentially reasserting to allow the use.
Yeah, I recorded the decision. I thought I was done, and then I found out that I was done, and they weren't.
So has the building been inspected, as you mentioned, the smoke detectors and all that? Has that been approved by inspectional services and fire department?
The fire department hasn't come by yet, but she said that the inspectors from the building has come and take a look at it.
Okay.
But I wasn't there, so I don't know who was the one that came.
Okay. So all the work has been inspected and signed off on the city side of things?
That's what she says, yeah.
Okay. So it meets code.
Mhm.
Okay. And there was like a nail salon in there. Is that still there or gonna
Yes,
stay
that's
there?
in the front of the office space.
Okay. And there's no second, is it still a second commercial space, or that's gonna be your third unit?
That's going to be the third unit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
We'll move to questions. If there's anybody here in attendance who would like to speak in favor of the petition. Anybody here in favor of the petition?
Calvin Anderson, 12 Concord Street, and Lynn, and this is like deja vu for me, because I saw this listing in the paper, and I said, didn't they already do that? Well, I'm going to go on record that I spoke up in favor of it for all the right reasons then. It's now this hiccuping that Tina, I guess, has to do it again because of, well, you know, we're not in a professional property business. You just trust your contractor's going to pull the permits and stuff. But now just going forward, now that they're at the point where the reinspection has been signed off on, I'm just agreeing that this is a thing to approve and let go. I walk by it all the time and it won't impact the neighborhood at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in attendance to speak in favor of the petition? All right, we'll move to anybody here in attendance that would like to speak against the petition. Anybody here against the petition? All right, what is the wish of the board?
A motion to grant?
A motion from Mr. Olson. I'll second that.
Member Gilring,
Yes.
Member Christopher,
Yes.
Member Maggio,
Yes, to grant.
Member Olson,
Yes, to grant.
Member Lopez Hernandez.
Yes to grant. All right. Congratulations. We have our final case tonight. We have case number 10106, 466 Eastern Avenue.
466 Eastern Avenue, Lynn, Massachusetts, parcel number 097-464-035, petitioner Saravi Sabri?
Yes.
By his attorney Samuel A. Vitale, ZBA 10-106. To vary pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 10, the provisions of the City of Lynn Zone Ordinance to allow the construction of a new single dwelling on a pre-existing non-conforming lot with less than the required area, frontage, setbacks, and parking space number, and design standards in the apartment house Class 2 district. This matter was previously denied by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the applicant has appealed. The court has remanded this matter back to the board for consideration of new plans. The variance request requires the Zoning Board of Appeals to specifically find that, owing to circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying of substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Attorney Vitale.
Thank you. This is deja vu. We were here before. The board voted first the board voted 4-1 when we were here before to allow us to submit a plan, which we did, which satisfied all of the items that members of the board asked. Then that same board, not you folks, but that same board voted 3-2 to approve it. Well, you need 4, and that's why I brought the lawsuit. I brought it also because I think that this is an example of the focus on the wrong items. I'm very familiar with this site. I grew up maybe a block and a half away from what was known as the Peralta Shoe Store. Another reason why I miss Mr. County, because he had that historical perspective. But I remember the Peralta Shoe Store. It was the rage when they had those, I think they're called Buster Browns, they're like two-color shoes or whatever. And I remember as a kid, they had this machine, you went in and you stepped on it, and you measured your foot, it was all hocus pocus. But long ago, that disappeared. And for more than 20 years, maybe 30 years, that building has sat empty. And then these folks were really taken in. A broker told them, yeah, you can build a single-family house. They bought it. I brought this to the attention of Coco, the ward counselor. I told him I was going to seek the relief, and his question and concern was relative to parking. So we designed a place that never had parking with a garage under. And then we got onto another issue, which was, and Attorney Goodman is here, and he came back out of retirement to be here. That's how important this case is that there were people that had concern about a view. And as I said then, and I say to you now, you can look in the Lynn zone ordinance, you can look in the new Lynn zone ordinance, and you will never find the word view. And the reason for that is it's not in any state statute. The zoning enabling law, section 2A, was repealed. It once had purposes. It's gone. And the reason for that is that the Supreme Court of Massachusetts had considered whether people have a right to complain or have view. I'm reading this one because it'll be relevant in the future. But it says, generally speaking, I'm quoting the Supreme Court, concerns about the visual impact of a proposed structure on an abutting property are insufficient to confer standing. This goes back to when Mitt Romney lived in Belmont, and the Church of Latter-day Saints built a big steeple. And they cite that case. So that was my position then, it's my position now. But we attempted, as I said to you, we revised the plan the way the board wanted us to do it. And then members of the board voted against it. Mr. Olson was right when he said, of course, there's a topography issue. If you go and look at the site, it goes up a hill. So the statute for a variance says you're entitled to relief if you have soil conditions, topography, shape, or slope. Well, we got topography and slope, I think, and Mr. Olson noted that. So that was one issue. The other is that people said, well, go put a barber shop. Well, for more than 20, 30 years, there's no barber shop, there's nobody using it, it's a small building. But in the spirit of cooperation, we went back and we revised the revised plan. And we finally got a plan that we think satisfies people's concerns. We reduced the size by 1 bedroom. We made the building smaller. We pushed the building back, further up towards the hill. And I think that Attorney Goodman wanted to be assured that it would stay a single family, and that in terms of the exterior structure, not you can't paint it green or blue or white, but that you can't make it any bigger than what the plan we've submitted. And we don't have any problem with either of those conditions. He can speak best to that. But with respect to that, these people have been paying a mortgage on a property they can't use for almost 3 years. Now, that's not your fault. It's the process, which in the courts took us almost 2 years to get to that point. But I think that this is a satisfactory compromise to allow essentially vacant building that's an eyesore, that's been there for more than 25 years, to provide housing for someone, to me would be a clear advantage. And given the hardship of the nature of the shape of this lot, the size of the lot, the topography of the lot, I think that the relief that we seek is justified. I'd be glad to answer questions. Attorney Lamanna did an excellent job with respect. He never buckled, and I know I made 2 or 3 attempts in the court, but the issue was really one of fact. And so, because I think the law is clearly on my side with respect to view, and I think it's on my side with respect to the fact you can't deny somebody that owns land that they can't have any use. And the least intensive use in the city of Lynn is a single-family dwelling. And this is a business lot. And the prior owners tried to market it. They found no takers. And I would think if you guess, I'd rather live next door to a residence than a business. So I think we can achieve that with your help and with the cooperation of Attorney Lamanna and Attorney Goodman. I'd be glad to answer questions.
Any questions from the board?
I do have one from Attorney Lamanna. Could you just explain the ruling from the city's point of view and what that means.
We still have an active case. It's still active, right?
The case has been dismissed.
Oh, okay.
That by agreement of the parties, and they come back here. It probably could have been refiled, because it's been more than 2 years. Normally, you have to wait 2 years after a unfavorable ruling, so it could have come back regardless of the case. But,
Okay.
My recollection is from the concern for review, but also the garage was too close to Eastern Avenue, and there was a concern that there was a safety hazard, that the people couldn't see the cars coming out of the garage. I believe that that's been rectified with these plans, and I believe that those, some of the objections that were brought forth by Attorney Goodman on behalf of his clients. So I think my understanding is that those issues have been rectified.
Okay.
Now, the two members that voted no, I'm no longer on the board, so I don't want to speak for them, but my recollection, that they had some concern about safety with the close proximity of the garage to Eastern Avenue sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the property too. The existing building, it's almost like a nose on the street, with the other edifices as you go down the street, it kind of right at the back of sidewalk. So it looks like you kicked it back at least 4 feet behind the sidewalk, and then probably another 8 feet for the living space beyond
There's a
that.
right of way, it's like 7 or 8 feet that goes from between the apartment building that exists.
Yeah.
We met the sideline on that side because it's a right of way.
Yeah. So that's pushed back as well. And then on the rear setback, I know it's pretty tight on the rear. What is that now? Is that like 5 feet? Like you
I
can't
gotta
go
look
in
at
front
Reed's
of the back.
plan. I think Reed updated the plan.
Lot plan.
We had less than the required rear yard, absolutely.
Yeah, it was pretty tight.
But because that's where the parking lot of I think the condominiums, that's where the parking lot, sort of at the back is. So the only thing, we're not abutting a residence here, we're abutting a parking lot.
Right. So it comes out in the back, it comes out at ground level above the garage level. Right. Probably like a 10, 12-foot drop between the back and the front.
What are the changes that were made between this proposal and one that failed?
That's a very good question, and the answer is that there's one less bedroom, and the building has been pushed further back. It's a small, let's start with it's small, number one. Number two, it's
Why is it smaller?
the smaller square footage. I think height-wise, yes, because it's further back towards the parking lot, and we took out one bedroom.
Okay.
But you have to have, part of the reason of the height is you have to get a garage under it. It was never in parking. So to create the garage under it, that's going to start from here. But then the building comes, the residential portion is sort of back here. But it clearly, the differences are, it's smaller, so we know it's further back, and it certainly doesn't affect the view of the people who were here the last time, because the buildings are pushed back.
I'm familiar with the original plan had the whole building right at the back of sidewalk. They came in with a revised plan, pushed the building back maybe 3 feet and put like a roof porch. So it looks like that roof porch that sort of sat in that 8 foot, that's been removed. So that whole roof is gone.
Right.
Porch is gone in the front compared to that revised plan.
When we're talking about the pushing of 8 feet back, is it that the slope as it was when the board was reviewing this case, it's just gonna be dug up and then the full structure pushed back on a new dug up section of the slope? Or is it that up to
It's going to
the,
go back into the slope.
okay, so
Yeah,
they're gonna
move it back.
dig all that up,
Yeah.
a wall of some sort to hold down the rest and then fit it there? Okay.
And we did that because, as I say, what's at the rear is parking, which is maybe 40 feet in the rear from where we are.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
As far as the square footage of the current structure, how much smaller is this than what you're proposing?
I'd have to do the math, as I was advised by your secretary, Mr. Haliotis, who did the plans here. But I did speak with him on the phone, and it's clearly I could do the calculation, yeah, I have the old plan, but I would say you lost 8 bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plot plan.
Yeah, I don't know. Have it handy.
Was the plot plan submitted? A plot plan?
Look at the folder.
Yeah, these are great.
Just want to take a look at it real quick.
I have the old plan.
Going.
That's 21. Whatever's in the folder.
For the worth line.
Do you foresee any concerns with how the retention wall is going to work with saturation in terms of stormwater, water saturation against the building between the wall, given that you have the hill?
In terms of building.
Are there any concerns in terms of water filtration?
In terms of
The management of water?
I mean, right now, in its natural state, it can flow out of the driveway wherever it wants to go.
Okay.
We probably have one on file from the previous plan.
But it doesn't showcase the new,
No,
okay, building.
I got a big brown folder I could go and get.
Yeah. But we don't have the new plot plan with the new, footprint that is being proposed here.
whatever is in that folder, that's what I got.
Okay.
With the,
I
yeah,
don't
look
see
in
it
there,
here,
if
but
it's
you
in,
can
if
add
it would be in there.
as a stipulation if you
Yep.
decide to move in that direction.
Because he was very sick, Mr. Heliotis.
Any other questions, comments from the board before we move into anybody else speaking? Okay, thank you. Opening it up to anybody attending to speak in favor of the petition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Different posture this evening than over the past several meetings. As those of you who were present at the prior meetings may recall, our concern was the sheer volume of the building and the effect that it had of essentially creating a box at the street line and the impact that it had on the neighbors. I will take the time this evening to attempt to lecture you on zoning law. My distinguished colleague and I can have those discussions off on our own. At this point, what we agree on is the facts. And this new plan does address the issues that we've been asking about from the outset. Mr. Damas has a unit that was directly facing what would have been a wall, and at a point where there should, under the current circumstances, there could have been no structure. So in working with Mr. Vitale, when the architect came up with these most recent plans, which essentially cut 8 feet lateral from the street, the front of the building back on the second and third floor, it opened up a great deal of what is lost in terms of light, air, view, and visual impact, which I do think is within your purview, but for purposes of this hearing, we're in agreement, so we don't have to address that legal question. So that doesn't go as far as we would like in a perfect world, but we recognize that at some point, some development of this lot is appropriate. And with the new plans, we believe that the negative effects are reasonably addressed. So our agreement with Mr. Vitale was that 2 conditions be attached to the grant, and that is one, that there'll be no further increases or extensions to the dimensions of the structure beyond the dimensions shown on the plans dated December 21, 24, which have been filed with the board, and that the premises will be used only as a residence for one family unit and for no other purpose. So we just want to know, you're building on a very small lot. Let's just make sure that we don't put we don't try to expand it in the future, and that it's not overloaded by the use. And it's my understanding that Mr. Vitale and his client are in agreement with those conditions. I have typed them out. A third condition, excuse me, that relates to dismissal of the lawsuit, but I understand now that it's already been dismissed, so that doesn't need to be addressed. So to the extent that the board is willing to accept these conditions that the parties have agreed upon, we withdraw our opposition and would not object to the board's granting itself.
Thank you.
Peace.
Anybody else here to speak in favor of the petitioners or the petition? All right, moving to anybody here in attendance who would like to speak against the petition. Anybody here? Sure, if you can come into the microphone and state your name and address and we can go on that. Yeah.
But I work at 458. I live at 458, 460 Eastern Avenue, Deborah Jardina. I received a notice. So I got that in the mail. But my question is, I'm not down at that end of the building, but it will push up toward the end, and I am on that side. So like my concerns are, like you said, the sloping and the water and the drain. We have a lot of water coming down that hill, even into our building. We also have a problem with our sewage. Our pipes have failed, so we've had to fix those with the water. How does that affect us in the building if we have a failure and everything backs up? That's my question. Does it have enough back and front to help that? So in other words, can they have it as residence and not a commercial building?
Is that a question to the board?
It is.
From what I'm looking here to the satellite imagery, there is a considerable amount of green space in terms of buffer between the parking lot and the actual parcel where the structure will be. So in terms of runoff, if it's coming from the parking lot, it seems that it would be. Usually it's absorbed by that green space and by that lawn. I'm sure on the question of the sewage, since
Yeah, the water and sewer departments would be responsible for maintaining the sewer.
Because we have, it's failing, the sewer system that for our area, we've already had a flood before I moved in, and shortly after that, we had a rainstorm and someone's apartment got flooded.
Yeah,
from
so if
that
it's a
pipe.
problem or a blockage, sometimes it could be a
It was
blockage.
actually failing, I was told by their plumbers, the construction people.
Yeah, so if that's the case, it should be reported to the.
So I think it was, but I just have a question.
And I would reach out to
Build the building,
to the city council to follow up on it, that it's been addressed. Maybe they made a repair
maybe,
already.
maybe that.
And if there's a problem, with your service that comes from the house to the street, the house service, I believe, in Lynn, is the responsibility of the homeowner.
I'm just thinking that if something's commercial and then someone builds another residence, you have more people on that pipe.
Yeah, I don't know whether,
Is that a valid question for the board?
yeah, I mean, they're building a new building and they probably should need a new service.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So are they gonna prepare that? Was that in the plan? Was
It's
that
not a site
addressed?
plan for us.
that's not a
not a
zoning
zoning issue.
issue. That is more a building.
So I thought
permit.
with zoning, you had to have so many feet forward and so many feet back. That's not part of your,
Those are setbacks in relation to other buildings or other allowable uses and structures.
what do you mean other?
Abutters in the zone, which the
So
parcel is
not that
in.
parcel that wants the commercial to residential. That's my understanding. I don't know. Don't they have to, it's gonna be different. It's not gonna be a commercial building. It's gonna have people there.
The building was pre-existing non-conforming, I'm assuming.
I don't know. I've just moved there.
So it means that before zoning was implemented, that was a commercial building. So you don't have to go in and change it once zoning's implemented. You just have to, if you're going to change the use, you need to conform. So the application here is to change the use from pre-existing non-conforming use to a residential one, which, as I understand it, conforms with that neighborhood and that zone in the
So it has to be part of whatever, okay. So it doesn't, so all that other stuff is for another part of the city. In other words, I have to go to someone else to talk about that?
Water and sewer, any other relevant departments that actually maintain and take care of the system. We
There's a question for special services. When a building is torn down and replaced, do we require that the sewer service be replaced as well? Yeah. Right, I believe it's water sewer. I know myself, I'm a civil engineer. There are some communities where that's a requirement. There's sewer ordinances to upsize them when they change the building, especially in an older community, they're often 4 inches and new code requires 6 inches. So they see it as an opportunity to upsize. I don't know what the ordinances are for the water, because we have an independent water and sewer.
Okay, I'm not on that floor, but I'm concerned.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else here to speak against the petition?
My name is Larry Kanch. My home and my garage is right adjacent to the building. So my concern is the underground parking, like that store is right out front. So how is the parking situation just from the safety and school buses? How is that gonna work? And as far as the back, my garage and the foundation, there's just basically half of this table that's available to go backwards. And then there's my foundation. It's a very old home. So, and then the side with the grass area, that's on my property, my property line. So the big picture for me is the underground parking. How is that gonna work where it's on the street level? Like for my house, I have a garage. At least I can pull in and pull out. And every day, I've been doing it for 15 years. You gotta be extremely careful. It's very busy street, school buses constantly. We've had accidents there. You can look at the paper and see all the accidents that take place on that street. So I don't understand how the underground parking is gonna take place. And you can't go backwards. Like I said, there's half of the size of this table that's back there, and the side is on my land. So how is the underparking gonna take place if you can't go backwards and you can't go sideways?
So I would ask Attorney Vitale to answer that question if you can in terms of the design. Which property are you in a butter of?
I'm on 477, so there's 2 houses. The house next to me has they have to carve in a parking area. They're not on the street. My house has a garage next to it. I've been asked so many times if I wanted to sell it, like, how am I gonna park, especially in the winter? And it's just not safe, and the school buses are constantly there. There's a school right across the street from us. It's always accidents happening without this. So I don't understand how the underground garage is gonna work.
It's not underground.
Where is it gonna be?
Street level,
How? Where?
drive in
Where are you driving? There's nowhere to drive in.
with a curb cut.
But there's no way for them to go. That's my land.
No. This building and this, first of all, I don't know what your address is. What's your address?
It's 470 Eastern Ave.
All right. So you own that ugly white garage that's on the right side?
Ugly? No, it's the beautiful one.
Okay. All right. So that's on the right side. So you have a garage.
I have a garage.
Okay. And these people they want to provide parking with this.
A built-in.
All right, I'll let you talk.
Anybody who will be speaking towards the board.
Okay.
So with respect to parking, we provide parking where there's never was parking. We do it with a garage that's not underground, it's at street level. It's adjoining this garage. It's smaller than this other garage, and it provides a space that never once existed. A garage is a permitted accessory use to a principal use, which is a residential use, so it's an allowed use. Having a parking garage, either attached or detached, is a permitted use. So we're allowed to have it. Where is it going to be? At street level. There is no underground. It drives right in from the street.
Have you seen the plans?
I have seen the plans, and the last time they presented, it was gonna be underground. It wasn't.
That's incorrect. It was never underground.
So the plans that we have right now, it's that the building is going to be moved towards inside.
How is it gonna be moved if there's nothing? What about my foundation? It's a 1800 home, like the foundation. What's gonna happen with half of this table for them to move backwards? It's not possible.
The plans that we have show that the parking is at the street level and that cars will be able to maneuver inside because the building itself will be pushed backwards.
But how
towards the
far are
area.
you moving backwards?
I believe it's the 8 feet that we're mentioning to work.
So it's going back 4 feet. The existing building is being torn down.
Okay,
And they're building a new building, setting it back a little bit and up a little bit. This was a question that I had during the first submission, that I wanted the vehicles to be able to make their turning movement to pull off the road completely without their rear end sticking out or front end sticking out when they pull into the garage. By setting it back, it allows them to, that footage for a full length of a car to get in there. So they did address that concern. We had a similar concern for them to safely pull in and out. As far as your foundation, they need to build, and if they are, inspectional service will look out when they put in their new foundations and walls associated with that. They need to make sure that they're not impacting abutting property. And if they are, they're gonna have to do some shoring to make sure it does not impact your home.
so if this building is being torn down, it's being gutted, so it can be moved forward, more closer to the street?
No.
so they can have the-
No, they're moving it back.
But that's my whole point, is that you can't move it. If you're gonna move it forward to gain space back, you're gonna be more on the street for the parking and just an accident waiting to happen. And if you go backwards and you go into my area, in my dwelling.
They're not going to the side. They're staying within the footprint of.
But even if you, but not just the side, so that whole area that floats down with the grass area, that's my land.
Yeah.
And then behind.
They will
me,
not touch on
the
it.
size of this table that's available, I just don't understand where they're gonna move back to. There's no room for them to move back.
Yeah, they're staying within the footprint of their property.
And the safety of the school buses and all the accidents that already exist without this. I mean, like I said, I have a garage, my other neighbor, they had it built in when they first built the house, they built in an area where they can park their vehicles, so they're not pulling directly out. So how is this safe for the children across the street?
Attorney Vitale, so you're familiar with this?
What's your question?
You're familiar with the garage at 470?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So
It's closer to the street than ours is.
okay, that was gonna be my
That's
question.
exactly right.
Is it on the same plane or is it?
That was a concern that was expressed by not only Mr. Olson, but others in terms of backing up. But we addressed that.
Right, and so you're saying it's further.
I can't change what's the other garage into doing this.
Right.
It's closer to the street.
Yeah, just as a matter of, perspective, is it, it's further, you're saying it's at or further back?
And Mr. Olson is correct, we're within the footprint of our building. That's one of the actions. I can't change the size of the lot. That's what it's been since it was created. And in terms of use, as I indicated, I think a residential use is preferable to an existing use. Somebody says, come in and open a tattoo parlor next door. I think you get a different version of what we accept. And I guess it's safe because somebody can go in there tomorrow and open up a tattoo shop
I get K, B, and C.
without anybody's permission.
All right. Any other comments, questions? And can I get your name? I didn't get the name fully.
Lila, last name's Kanj, 470 Eastern Avenue.
Okay.
I still don't understand the parking situation at all. I hear what you're saying, but it just does not make sense. Because if you really go down there and look at how it's set up, especially like this, my house, my neighbor's house, how the parking we pull out, it's not what's gonna happen here.
Okay.
It can't be.
In terms of the concern for how much space is there for the new structure to be pulled back towards the end of the property line, one of the stipulations that I am planning to do is to take a look before whatever happens, if we decide to approve this, to take a look at the certified plot plan, just to make sure that the building footprint is still within the property line, and to have that make sure. All right, thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak against the petition? Anybody else who would like to speak against?
Hi, good evening, everybody. My concern Yes.
Can you give us your name and your address, please, real quick?
Bella, B-E-N. C-H-A-N-G.
Yep. Chan. And address?
460 East Avenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Apartment 26.
Okay.
I am in the basement. My concern is because I heard all of this, they want to make it a house. I stay in the level, and the bottom. So if they're going to make the construction, they're going to be in my wall, in my side, because I still in the basement. So this is very small place. I don't understand how they're going to make a house there, because I live there like maybe 17 years. And the only thing they have before is the shoe store. That's it. So after they moved, it was vacancy for so many years. And now I heard they're gonna build a house. So they have a depth obstruction in my wall. It's right there, the window. If people, they come in to see, because one thing is what they say, but the other thing is what you see. It's very small place. It's like and the way they have it like a driveway, they can fit a car. That's it. So that's the only thing is my concern, because when they're gonna build, they're gonna be everything. They're gonna come into my bedroom. That's what is right there. And that's
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else who would like to speak against the petition? Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. What is the wish of the board?
They were, motion to grant with stipulations. I think, I can read these in.
And Mary, you have them
Yep.
for records? All right.
All right, so they're read in. There shall be no further increases or extensions to the dimensions of the structure beyond the dimensions shown on the plans dated December 21st, 2024, filed with the board. Second would be the premises shall be used only as a residence for one family unit and for no other use or purpose.
I'm
And I
gonna-
believe you had one.
I'm gonna have the third one, which is the board will like to take a look at a certified plot plan that shows these changes of, these plans dated December 21, 2024. After taking a look at it, then, it may be officially granted. All right, I'll second that.
Okay. Do you want me to read each stipulation, or is everybody okay?
Everybody okay? Do we need a reread of the stipulations? Anything else? All right,
Okay.
I think we're good for the roll call.
Member Perez?
Motion to grant with stipulations.
Member Christopher? Member Maggio?
Yes, to grant on the stipulations.
Member Olson?
Yes, the grant with stipulations.
Member Lopez Hernandez?
Yes, to grant with stipulations. All right, thank you. Have a good night. I don't believe we have any cases.
Yep.
We do have something in new business real quick before we adjourn, and it's related to 1 Hanson Street. From the petitioner, we were asked if we could provide a refund of the fees that were submitted, consulting the ISD and other folks. It seems that if we can have please a moment. What we were advised is to allow a refund of the fee for the application itself, but in terms of mailers and postages, those costs, since they have already been incurred, then we will not be able to. So I'm just gonna make a motion to allow for that refund to happen to the petitioner at 1 Hanson Street, with the exception of any postage charge mailing. And we can then have that.
Who second that?
Yeah, so is there any seconds on that?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Okay.
Okay, member Martin. And we'll have a quick roll call.
Member Maggio?
Yes.
Member Christopher? Member Lopez Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Olson?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, motion to adjourn, everybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Those in favor say aye.
You can't go yet.